Grand Dawn and Great Rising, Cleveland, Ohio, and the rest of planet Earth. Welcome to another edition of Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest this morning is someone that I have been acquainted with for several years. He has a very prominent family. His sister is someone who is a jazz musician, but he is a photographer. And I'd like to read a few words. I generally start the program by reading their biography, but these are words that were written about him by someone else. Mr. Rubin's photographs are an improvisational session of images which often possess an optic rhythm, perhaps reflecting his involvement in jazz music because of their improvisational nature and because the artist is not locked into an interpretation. Many of his works are untitled. His avant-garde and bold technique capture the ongoing counterpoint between the beauty of nature and the efforts of man. His works run the gamut from the delicate petals of a flower to the depersonalizing forces of our monolithic metropolises. That's quite a collection of words to describe the work of Mr. Michael Rubin. Welcome to Open Door, Michael Rubin. How you doing, Michael?
Very good, sir. Very good.
All right. Well, I'm telling you, I'm really excited about doing this interview with you. You know, years ago, I was involved with an interview that featured your sister, who was Vanessa Rubin, Vanessa K. Rubin, for those who really know her. And your mother was somehow involved in that interview. And Vanessa has been on me about getting access to that interview for years. But unfortunately, it's on 3/4-inch tape. And, you know, 3/4-inch tape is a thing of the past. So if you could find a machine that you could play that interview on, good luck with that. But anyway, here we go. You are someone, obviously, who came up in Cleveland. Like your sister, you went to John F. Kennedy High School, and then things happened. So pick it up from where things happened after you graduated from JFK.
Let's see. After I graduated, I stayed here in Cleveland for a while. I attended Ohio University for a couple of years. And then I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. And started working, got a job down there, working in the state prison as a prison guard. I was like 21, 22 years old. And lived there for a couple of years and moved back here to Cleveland. And after I moved back here to Cleveland, that's when, I don't know, everything started. I started developing my musical skills and my photographic skills. And been doing both ever since. Especially being a musician, you know, that's a hard life.
yes, it is.
It's a hard life, and it after a while, you know, after I got married, you know, and I started having kids, we had kids. You know, I realized, oh, you know, this music thing, even though I was gigging 5-6 nights a week because I was playing with Dewey Jeffries. And if anyone knows Dewey Jeffries, you know, he was gigging 5-6 nights a week. So, but hey, after that, I had to think about raising a family, having an income that, you know, you could raise a family with. And that's what I've been doing since, even though now I'm retired and trying to do my music and my photography.
Okay, so from what I can recall, because I've interviewed your sister for a television show that I do, You grew up in a family that was really immersed in music, but you said you didn't really get into being a musician until you came back. So, what was the impetus for you to start embracing music and the power that it has within your life?
Well, my mother, my parents always encouraged us to, you know, do something musically. Music was always played in the house. And I don't know, it was just in the blood. It was just in the blood. So that was just something that I just started doing, and Dewey gave me the opportunity to explore that, and I ran with it.
Okay. And your choice of instrument is percussion, specifically congas.
Yes.
So, what was your decision in terms of choosing that as opposed to another type of musical instrument?
Well, I think my that was a quick way for me to play music or play in a band. I could do that because my mom used to have a steel band when we were growing up. It was called the Caribbean Harps. And it was probably the only steel band that I knew of here in town. And started doing gigs with them. But we always had a pair of congas. And when the band wasn't playing, we kept them up in our room. I shared a room with two brothers, Lawrence and Stephen. And we would sit up in the room and listen to music and play congas. So felt kind of confident I could do that, and I could bring something to the band, and I could participate in the musical conversation every night. And that's what, one thing led to another, and that's how it happened.
That's interesting. And knowing what I know about Dewey, he had a reputation for dealing with vocalists. I know one specifically, Gloria Cummings Jones, who obviously and to my great delight is someone who is very engaged with Larchmere Arts, and she's staging concerts on the fourth Fridays of the month. So to those who are listening, if you can come through Larchmere Arts on the fourth Friday of the month, you'll hear some great jazz. But I'm just thinking about a percussionist being in his mix when he generally had a small unit. Was it a situation where he saw you, he was compassionate, he wanted to include you, or you just found a way to get in where you fit in?
Well, I wasn't the first conga player that he had. The first time I saw Dewey perform, I was, my oldest brother took me out to a place called Nate's Inner Circle. He was playing there, and he had a conga player by the name of Santee Huckabee, who was playing congas, and that just fascinated me. That was the first time I had ever witnessed live music, and I was hooked from there. I was hooked. I knew that was something that I wanted to explore, and have been exploring it ever since.
It sounds like, from what you shared, it sounds like you are a self-taught conga player. Talk to me about how you developed your skill set within that instrument.
Yes, I'm self-taught, and it was. I don't know. I use the term I learned to get in where I fit in, I would listen to other conga players, but I knew, and I studied a little, just trying to learn what to play, when, what not to play, in certain situations. And it was always open. And I just learned to, hey, get in where I fit in, and not get in the way.
Yes. I shot a concert that happened at Richmond Heights High School a couple years ago with what was the Love Unlimited Orchestra. It was a name that was owned by a local musician by the name of Dr. Fred Wheat. And on that occasion, there's a brother who was playing congas. His name is Junior. I can't recall his full name, but I know him as Junior. But he was playing congas, and I recorded the concert, and I was obviously present to hear it. And one thing that I noticed was that the sound of that conga just kind of pierced through everything, and it was magical. Maybe it was the way they had it mic'd or whatever, but there was just something magical about that conga drum. And ever since then, I've really been fascinated with folks that play that instrument. The thing that I appreciate about it and your situation is that it was fully instinctive for you. So you were just playing what you felt at the time and making sure that it fit in with what everyone else was doing. But you didn't have to read music per se. You didn't have to have any extensive knowledge of chord structure and scales and all that stuff. You could just put your hands on the drum. And I'm wondering if that was part of the deliberate idea that you had about being a musician.
Well, there were certain things that you learned about playing music that and different styles of music that when you play, it's like when you're swinging. When you're swinging, the emphasis is on 2 and 4, especially for congas. Once you learn that and you hear that and you feel it, it's like that's where it is. And when you do that and you hear the groove and it locks, especially if you're playing with a drummer and the rhythm locks, you can't say anything else about it. I mean, it's like, that's just where it is. And I used to play with a drummer called Marty Barker here in town. And Marty used to tell me all the time, hey, just stay in the pocket. Don't worry about anything, because no matter where they go, wherever the music goes, it's coming back to you. And that always stuck with me. So that was just one of the rules that I applied when I play.
So I would imagine at some point you probably immersed yourself in Latin rhythms. Have you done any research or training or looking into or learning the Latin rhythms?
I do that. I do that all the time. But being self-taught, you learn what I would call bad habits. And when you learn bad habits and you develop those bad habits, it kind of limits you in a lot of ways, because you cannot play in a traditional way, or you can't execute certain things in a traditional way. The rocking of the hands, the open tones and slaps, and those kinds of technical things in playing playing on a skin on a conga drum. And the weather affects it, and if you don't have your technique together, it limits you. That's why I don't. I've listened to a lot of conga players, but I just can't. I can't play like them, so I don't even try to play like them. When I get in a playing situation, I fall back to my motto. I get in where I can fit in. And I just like to groove. I groove.
Yes. Well, you mentioned Marty, and he is a phenomenal drummer. I'm saying he because I'm not putting him in the past tense, but I know he's kind of given up playing his drums. I would do anything to hear him play once again. I can recall one time, miraculously, he ended up playing a set at Nighttown, and I don't even remember who he played with. But there are legendary stories about Marty.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure, but you cannot. His drumming skills were, to me, they were off the chart. He was one of the best drummers in the city of Cleveland, especially if you wanted to play some funk.
Yes. There are a couple of other drummers, and one I'm hopeful that you knew of because I think he, at some point, may have been at the same high school that you were. Are you familiar with Reggie Holmes?
Reggie Holmes.
They called him Pudge back in the day.
The name, no, I don't think I am. Do you know when he attended Kennedy?
Yeah, he was there in 1974 and 73 when you were there.
Yeah, no, I didn't know him. When I was in high school, I didn't even, I didn't play any music. I ran track and I ran cross country, and that's what I focused on every day. Every day, every morning, I would get up and run before I went to school. And when I got to school, depending on whether I had a first period or not, I would be out on the track or doing something to develop my running skills.
Okay. I have to ask this question as well because I had occasion to get a drum lesson on a djembe drum during the Larchmere Cultural Arts Festival. And so I learned a couple of techniques, and I'm a percussionist. I play piano, but I embrace the idea of being a percussionist. So if you put a cowbell in my hands, I know what to do with it, or other percussion instruments. But what are you thinking about, or what would you think about playing a djembe as opposed to playing a conga drum?
Techniques are different. I like the djembe. I've never really played it with. I played it in jam sessions, but I wouldn't feel comfortable playing one in a on a gig or something like that. But it's a natural sounding. Any drum. When it comes to, I say, people of color, because that was our original instrument, and I've heard people and seen people play drums, talking drums, djembes, and they speak it. They speak a language that, is just like talking. I witnessed something one day in a situation like that where it was these two gentlemen playing with a talking drum, and they would pull someone out of the audience, and they would give them an object to hide someplace in the room, and the guy would actually play this talking drum and tell his partner where this thing was hidden, and he would go and find it. I couldn't believe it, but it's like, hey, how can you it just makes you move. It's like when you listen to salsa music, you can't sit still listening to salsa music. It's just a phenomenal thing.
Yes. You know what else is phenomenal? Participating in the playing of drums.
Oh, yes.
To sit in a drum circle and everybody has a part to play, and some people are playing different rhythms or counter rhythms or whatever. But it's just so exhilarating to just be involved in something like that. You have any experience in playing in drum circles?
Yes. It's especially when you understand the parts that everyone has a part, and you can't. It's like when you're playing Latin music and everything is played off a clave, either 2-3 or 3-2 clave. And if you're doing that, you can't get clave turned around. You'll turn around the whole band. They'll stop playing. And they'll tell you, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You got to stick with the 3-2 or the 2-3 clave. But that's like everybody playing their part. Everybody playing your part. That's just how that goes. That's in that type of music. That's just how that goes.
Yes. So we had a conversation recently, and you told me that you were acquainted with a pianist, keyboardist by the name of Nick Smith, and you also told me that you and he write music. Can you talk about the nature of the music that you are writing and collaborating on?
Well, I don't. It's hard for me to explain my music because I have been told that my music or my point of departure is unlike anyone else's. And that's probably due to my knowledge or my knowledge of the chordal, knowing chords, knowing, okay, a C major and what's in C major and D and da 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 da, when it comes to that. But for me, I hear or see or feel something, and I sit down at the piano and I search it out. And when I think I hear what it is I'm feeling or seeing or whatever, I go from there. That's my point of departure. And I just go from there. Now with Nick, dealing with Nick, we met, it was early 90s. And I had been working on some music. And a friend of mine that I worked with at Tri-C introduced me to MIDI. I knew nothing about MIDI. And I said, wow. So after experimenting with MIDI, electronic stuff with the music, I had put together something on a tape, and I had taken it over a friend of mine's house for him to listen to it. And Nick was there, and I believe Noah King was there. When I walked in, I was totally intimidated by both of them being there because I had heard of Nick, and he's a great piano player. He has great ears, perfect pitch, everything. So we're dubbing this tape high speed, because I didn't want anybody else to hear it. I just wanted the gentleman was Mark Johnson to hear. So we're dubbing it, and it's going. So Nick said, "Wait a minute, what is that?" That's how it got started. That was funny. So that's what I've done with him, and it's been years that we have worked together, and I would write some stuff, and then I'd let him hear it, and he'd say, "Oh, he makes some corrections. No, you can't play this wrong note." Neil Creaky was also instrumental in helping me get my stuff together, and I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky and blessed to have gentlemen like that, as I call them, my musical godfathers, to teach me and help me develop my writing and just developing my music.
Yes. Well, you have been able to be connected to three of the greatest that have come out of this city. For those who don't know, Nick Smith is a keyboardist that lives out in Los Angeles now, and he does gigs with people like Marvin Smitty Smith and Dennis Chambers and some other great drummers. So you're in great company with him. Nick created a reputation for himself one night at the Front Row Theater. I don't know if you know about this, but there was a night where George Duke and Stanley Clarke were doing a concert, and they started playing Mothership Connection, and somehow Nick ended up on stage playing Mothership Connection with Stanley Clarke and George Duke.
Right.
And after that, he just blew up. I knew Nick as a very young man. I think he was probably somewhere around, I don't know, maybe 19 or 20 when that happened. And he's just taken off. He also played in the Tonight Show band for a season. Right. So,
yeah, he did that. He did that for a while. He did. Matter of fact, I spent about a week and a half at his home last week. I just got back. Last Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just got back. And that's all we did. Basically, the time that I was out there, we love to get together, and he likes to just mess around with my stuff. And like I said, I'm very lucky. I have been blessed to have someone, like Nick to work with, learn from. Very inspirational. I love the guy.
Yes, I hear you. Is it a situation where perhaps some music that was inspired by you is on any of his CD projects that he has out?
No, and I have told him for years. He's always wanting to do new material. And shoot, Nick and I have over the years, if we don't have 200-300 songs, we don't have one. And I've told him, hey, man, just record some of the stuff that we worked on over the years. No, well, it's your music. No, it's our music. But hey, maybe one day.
Yes. Well,
maybe one day. But it's okay.
Well, you've got my gears turning because I've written a few songs myself. It would be great if I could share something with Nick, and then Nick could take it to the next level.
That's exactly what he would do.
Yeah,
that's because he's going to definitely hear something different, and he will pick your brain like he picks mine. Well, how you want to do this, and the voicings that you might have, he's going to hear something different, and maybe the feel. He's blessed. Neil was the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Neil was the same way. Neil would tell me all the time, yeah, Michael, your music is wide open. And I didn't understand what he meant by that until later on. The chord inversions that I kind of gravitate to are like fourths. And if your knowledge of music, you would say, oh, and you play piano, mm-hmm. So you would know.
Yes.
Fourths, oh, wow, that's wide open. You can do a whole bunch of stuff with that. Neil used to tell me that all the time. And then he would explain to me why that was, why it was wide open, and even to as he would say, to his detriment, he was classically trained. So when he sat down at the piano, that was his point of departure in composing, his training. And I didn't have that training. So I'd sit down and, okay, yeah, I'm doing this. Maybe it's all just black keys. And, oh, yeah, that's wide open. Oh, yeah, you can do a lot with that. And I've heard some piano players tell me, no, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. But see, I've learned that sometimes some piano players, they don't hear it. It's like if you're doing a blues, it has to have a certain chord structure, 1-4-5 or, that kind of thing. And it's like, I don't know that, so that's not my point of departure, and I'm not hearing it that way. So I'm not trying to write that way. I'm not trying to write a blues for somebody else. I'm just writing my blues.
Yeah.
And that's how it comes out.
Right. Well, that 1-4-5 thing is really the universal language of the blues. So those of us who are clued in, all you got to do is tell us what key the person is singing in, or, what key the song is in, and then you can just play it because you know the progressions. And the other thing that you mentioned about the fourths, your boy Bernie Worrell, he was a master of that. If you listen to P-Funk music, you're going to hear a lot of fourths in that, and it just creates a certain dynamic within the sound. So I completely identify with what
You agree with that? That fourths are wide open?
they're wide open. Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Yes.
I did not realize that.
And then you have the school of Barry Harris. Barry Harris was
Ah,
all about the sixths. You know,
from Three Sounds.
yeah, there's those diminished chords. He was a master of manipulating the diminished chords. But we don't want to lose the folks who are listening because they probably
Yeah,
don't have a clue about what we're talking
yeah,
about.
right.
Yes. So I'm just wondering where your musical journey takes you now.
Um, well, I'm working on trying to get this project together. Um, I'm gonna call it something like it's like jazz, as my granddaughter would call it, but it's like it's cool jazz.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's some stuff that I've been working on now for about a year with my nephew. And it's I'm gonna try to get this project out in the next 3-4 months. And it has like I said, I'm blessed to have work with a lot of great musicians working, doing my compositions. Been blessed with having great arrangements by Nick and Cecil Bridgewater and my nephew Quentin, and it's gonna be nice.
Yeah,
It's gonna be nice.
you dropping names when you mentioned Cecil Bridgewater.
Oh yeah, it's another musical godfather.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well,
Another.
I have to tell you, I'm looking forward to hearing it because I have no idea of what it could possibly sound like. So I want you to promise that you will share this music.
Oh yes, I will. It's just something. It's been so long since I have put something out, or stuff that I've been working on. That it's been over 20 years. I have 2 CDs out there of my original material, and I'm getting ready to do some other stuff. My last 2 projects, they were, I guess, for the lack of a better term, they were Afrocentric and Latin based. But the thing I'm working on now is, I guess you could put it in the genre of jazz because it swings. It's a lot of swing, blues, and hey, that's what I've been working on.
Okay. And the instrumentation, is it you playing congas or do you have piano in it or?
Yes, I play some piano in some of it, but yes, I do most of the percussion. But I have as my first 2 projects, I didn't have a drummer. I didn't have a drummer on them, but I have a lot of this material. I have a drummer, and I've been blessed. I've been blessed in that way, working with a friend of my nephew's, Gene Lake, who they went to school together at Berkeley, and working with Gene is like, oh, Gene is just phenomenal.
Yes. Well, again, I look forward to hearing that, my brother.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So we've talked about music, but we introduced you as a photographer. So it is incumbent upon me to talk to you about your work, glowing words used to describe your work. And you mentioned getting into photography, I think, after you left Cleveland and came back. What was the impetus for you taking up photography?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What was the impetus for you taking up photography? Why did you start with that?
Well, my two younger brothers, when we were in high school, they were into photography, and they both joined the Navy, and they left all of their cameras and stuff here. And when I returned home from Nashville, I picked it up. I took a couple photography classes at Tri-C, and I just liked it. I liked the creative part of it, and I like the things that you can do, and the things that you see that you think you see, or we don't. Put it this way: insects, bees, flies, they see things totally different than the way we see things. And that kind of thought and that fascinates me. So, of course, the colors, the shapes of things, or sometimes I say the picture in a picture. You can take a picture. You might not like the picture, but if you look closely enough, you will find another picture in the picture. And sometimes it works. It works when you take the picture in the picture. You find the picture in the picture. I've done that. I do that a lot. I don't look for the normal thing. It's not. It just doesn't interest me. I do the same thing with music. I don't. Sometimes I get bored. Listening to the same thing over and over, or listening to bands that play the same thing over and over. It just I want to do something new. I want to hear something new. I want to experience something new. I think we all want to do that.
Yeah, I really relate to what you're saying about the picture within the picture, and I have an idea for a series that has been in my head for a long time, and I'm slowly but surely I'm going to get it moved from my head to the canvas, because I like to work with canvas as a backdrop for my images. But it's just fascinating to me to zoom in. My approach, particularly with portraiture, is to shoot tight. And as I look at your work, the Orchid series, I can see you taking that approach to zooming in tight, because if you pull back, you see the full flower. But if you zoom in, then you get to the details that make that flower so interesting.
Right. And if you studied the parts of the orchid, because I remember when I first started doing that, people used to say, they're phallic. Oh, okay. Okay. And when you study that, or it's because, I mean, to me, it was more interesting zooming in, but I didn't understand the phallic part. But as I learned more about the structure, the actual structure of the orchid and its parts, its anatomy, hey, now I understand why people said that. I
Well,
didn't,
yeah,
I didn't,
go ahead.
no, it wasn't something that I initially, was out to do, but that was just something that I was drawn to because that was interesting to me. I hadn't seen anything like that. So, yeah. But you being a photographer, yeah, it's you should do that.
Yeah,
Do you own a macro?
Mac, a what?
A macro lens.
Oh, I don't have any macro lenses, but I know how essential they are to capturing things that are
Yeah.
really up close. But what I wanted to mention was as I look at your work, I see the exact opposite of the phallic aspect that you were talking about. It seems to me to be the exact reverse of that.
I say no. I didn't hear that. Say,
I'm saying that as I look at your work, what I'm seeing is the exact opposite of the phallic aspect of what people are telling you about. I see the other other side of the spectrum as I'm looking at these close ups of different parts of the flower. You know,
mm-hmm.
and within the human anatomy, I think they explain that as we're developing, we actually have the presence of both aspects. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just that as you evolve, one becomes more prominent. So if you're a man, then of course the phallus is going to be larger. But on the female, the phallus is expressed by a certain body part that I'm not going to mention right now. But
Yeah, right.
you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah,
but when I
yeah.
look at the work, I actually see the opposite of the phallic aspect that you mentioned. So it's interesting to hear you put it in those terms. But no,
Well,
go ahead.
you know, everybody everybody brings something different. Everybody brings something different to the table. Everyone has different experiences in life, uh, different knowledge. I mean, their knowledge base is different. So it's almost like a Rorschach test. Everybody's going to see something different, and that's a thing that fascinates me also. Everybody brings something different to the table. You could show them a waterfalls, a pretty picture of a waterfalls, and you would never expect some of the things that people bring to the table and would say what they see. It just fascinates me.
Yes. So, in addition to what you do with flowers, you have a series called Sun and Water, which is a completely different approach. Can you talk about your landscape photography?
That is to me, when I do stuff like that, it's like the wide open spaces that we live in, that we are a part of, that we as humans have created, that we're drawn to. Everyone likes a nice, pretty, especially with water. Water is very calming. I just returned from a trip. I had never been west of the Rockies, and my wife had she had two aunts out there that she had never met. So we went out there to meet them and whatnot. And it's just phenomenal. It's, to see something you never seen, to photograph some stuff that you had seen and heard about. It's like, but it's just doing wide open spaces. And sometimes, in doing that, you can find another picture in a picture.
Yes.
I hope that kind of answers what you asked.
Yeah, it does. I'm sitting here looking at a picture that ironically looks like it might be the Rocky Mountains. It's snow-capped peaks, and there's a lake in the foreground of it, and so you can see.
Oh, you're on the website now?
I'm on the website now, just taking in all the beauty of your photography. And I have to ask, in that you were a self-taught percussionist, are you also a self-taught photographer?
Yes. Outside of a couple classes that I took that taught me. Of course, I did have a mentor with the photography, Lamar Harrell, who, old friend of the family. He was a photographer in the Air Force. He's the gentleman that got my two brothers involved, and it's like he tells me sometimes, yeah, you just took it to another level, because his thing was portraits. He has portraits of, oh God, a lot of people around Cleveland. He was a Black Panther back in the day. So he has a lot of that kind of stuff.
Interesting. Because I know somebody who wants to connect with that era in Cleveland. So is this brother still with us?
This brother is still with us.
Okay.
And he's still with us, and I will facilitate that if they want to.
Okay.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind. He's at a point now where, he says, his eyes are going, he can't see anything. I guess he's about 83, 84, and he just has a lot of this. He has a lot of photographs, because he used to work with a photographer here. I don't know if you've heard of Sneed Studios.
I can't say that I have.
Yeah. He used to do. Mr. Sneed used to do a lot of portrait stuff for high schools.
Okay.
He would take high school pictures. You go there and take your graduation picture.
Wow. Well, yeah. I'm seeing a lot of possibilities based on our conversation. And, this time has really slid by us so quickly. We're already approaching the end of our program. But I would like to entertain the possibility of working with you on a couple of different levels. One, your congas are welcome at Larchmere Arts, and two, the images are as well. Just recently, we had a digital photography exhibition that we staged at Unbar, but we can also stage it at Larchmere Arts. And I shared the work of Jeff Lawson, who is also an octogenarian, and he shot for Ebony and Jet magazines back in the day. He has a great body of work, and we were able to share that. So this is my pledge to you. I would like to share the artistry of Michael Rubin at Larchmere Arts at some point in time. So keep that under wraps, and then we'll make something happen. All right?
Thank you very much, Vince.
All
Thank
right.
you. I would love to do that.
All right. Well, thank you for being my guest on Open Door today. And to those of you who are listening, as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace.